Yo, what is up everyone? This is Slayer Knight, and today I thought I'd like to do a different style of video. Everyone knows that Dead by Daylight just released their newest and long-awaited chapter in the game. Springtrap from Five Nights at Freddy's is here, and I thought I'd like to go ahead and share my thoughts on what he is doing for this game. So many old players are picking the game back up again, as well as a lot of new players are trying it out for the first time. So this chapter is absolutely huge for the game and for the future of what will happen next. So I thought I would like to share my opinions on everything that is going on. Fair warning, a lot of my opinion in this video is from when I was playing through the PTB. So my current opinion on some things has since changed, and I'll cover that at the end, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of a heads up. With that, let's go ahead and get into the video. Alright. So for starters, I would like to say that I absolutely enjoy this chapter. Springtrap is an absolute treat to play as, and he's so fun. I have a blast every time I queue up as him. And the idea of bringing Five Nights at Freddy's to Dead by Daylight is 10 out of 10. Immaculate. I know fans have been begging for this to happen for years, and when I saw the announcement last year that Springtrap was coming, I was so hyped and yet so sad at the same time because I knew that we would have to wait 12 months. Well, he's here, and it just lived up to the hype. However, I will say that the execution is about a 8 to 8.5 points out of 10, give or take one. Why is the chapter missing a few points, you might ask? Well, for starters, there is no survivor. I acknowledge it would have been very difficult to create a survivor without much source material. Scott Cawthon likely didn't want to put a face to a faceless character. But Vanessa absolutely does have a face that they could have used. Jeremy Fitzgerald, Michael Apton, or even Henry Emily are also some options. Also, Mike Schmidt was played by Josh Hutchinson. That is a face to a character. Just like how they added the Matthew Lillard skin for Springtrap. Hell, add MatPat. He's in the freakin' movie. Additionally, Springtrap does have a few skins that are definitely not canon, so they could have added a non-canon survivor. And I do understand they were probably rushed and didn't have the time to create a survivor. Maybe they can add one in the future. Alright, I want you to take a second and go back in time with me. What was the biggest chapter in Dead by Daylight that brought in the most players? You got it? That's right, it was the Resident Evil Chapter 1 release. Even with its buggy release, people loved it, and it brought in a lot of new players who had never tried this game before. Yes, I know DBD was big before then. I myself have been playing for years, but it was still massive for the game. The game saw its peak player count of over 100,000 concurrent players on Steam. That's not even counting console. And what did that chapter bring? It brought us a new map in a new realm. That map was pretty accurate to the source material, which made Resident Evil fans happy. It also introduced a new killer with a unique power. That power allowed the killer to throw a whip over pallets, which would injure survivors or break the pallets with ease. He is personally still one of my favorite characters to this day. The chapter also added NPC zombies that you could mess with the survivors. Whether you like those zombies or can't stand them, you gotta admit, they are pretty exciting and new, especially back then. The chapter also introduced 2 new survivors that are beloved by fans. If you ask your favorite video game enjoyer, average. If you ask your average video game enjoyer their favorite Resident Evil character, most are probably going to say Leon S. Kennedy. But the chapter also introduced a new mechanic, the flashbang. Yeah, I know, firecrackers already existed, but this was an item that you can make in-game, and you can make multiple of them. It was just a new and fun part of the game, and it's still in the game. You might ask, why am I bringing up this chapter? Well, people have been kind of hyping up the new Five Nights at Freddy's chapter to be the biggest chapter in Dead by Daylight. And a year ago, when it was announced, I actually believed them. I agreed that that would be the case. After this release, however, I'm not so sure. So now let's take a moment and think about what the Five Nights at Freddy's chapter has brought to the game. It has introduced a new map in an already existing realm. I really like the new map, and I'm so glad it has the pizzeria. But why couldn't they have made it its own realm? Why make a licensed map the same as Garden of Joy or the theater? Why? Probably because it's easy. And this isn't a huge complaint of mine, it's just really an odd choice by the devs. Though, now that I think about it, since they have changed map offerings, this probably won't even matter. But going back to what Five Nights at Freddy's has included, it has also introduced a new killer from a beloved franchise with a Not so unique power? He's essentially a Huntress with a teleport, and I absolutely love FNAF and Huntress. So as I said earlier, I love playing this killer. And I know that most killers that have been released in the past 2 years have reused mechanics. That's fine. It's hard to come up with new ideas after 40 killers. It's not really a fault of the devs, but it definitely detracts from the overall chapter. Really quickly, I would just like to fire off some super minor complaints that I have with the chapter that don't really matter, but I just gotta get them off my chest. Number 1, the Mori is good, but it's not amazing. It does have some gore, which is a plus, and I really do appreciate its angles of showing Springtrap. I was just hoping that maybe Springtrap would stuff the survivors in a Springlock suit instead of using that machine from the movie, I think. Number 2, I know it would be super hard to make the entire map a pizzeria, but wouldn't that just make it that much better? I could be wrong on this since the entire map would make it an indoor map, and I know people really hate that. I would also like to say on a side note that I really like his model. They did a great job with it, and I'm happy with how he looks. I also really enjoy the animations that they included with Springtrap, such as grabbing the axe out of the survivor, or even him teleporting through the security office. That's a great one too. The animation of catching a survivor looks so badass, and it's cool that's kind of like an Easter egg, you know? You don't get that often. It looks and feels cool. It's an absolute treat when it happens. I guess the only complaint that I have about this part is that I wish they added multiple different angles going through the office and grabbing the survivor. It would be cool if there were different ways you came around just to spice it up. So I guess that's complaint number 3. And lastly, the chapter doesn't have any new survivors, as I mentioned before. You could argue that it brings in the new mechanic of the survivors have to mess with the cameras, but I would like to point out that the cameras don't really benefit the team to warrant using them consistently, at least. And most people after the first few days probably aren't going to use them too much. Heck, they're currently bugged. I just feel like the chapter is slightly lacking. It's fantastic in most regards, but what it could have been is what bugs me. And I honestly just need to let that go. Who knows? There's always the potential for them to have a FNAF chapter 2.0, like what they did with Resident Evil. So alright, that's enough bitching and moaning from me. No one wants to hear someone complain all day. And I would like to remind everyone that overall I really enjoy this chapter. I know it may seem I'm hating on the devs or I'm hating on the game. I love Dead by Daylight. I've been playing it for over 5+ years, and I play it almost daily. I will probably play this game until the day the servers are shut down. I also really love Five Nights at Freddy's. I grew up being too scared to play the games, and I would always watch my older cousin beat FNAF 1 and 2. I grew up watching Markiplier as the king of Five Nights at Freddy's as well. I used to watch every theory by MatPat and whenever new lore would drop. I still do watch old playthroughs of the classic games every now and then. My personal favorite games are Five Nights at Freddy's 2, FNAF Pizzeria Simulator, which is Five Nights at Freddy's 6, and also Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted. Those ones are all bangers. So yeah, I love both franchises, and I'm sure this update will be huge for Dead by Daylight. It already has broken the concurrent player record on Steam. So the argument that I made from 2 weeks ago talking how it wouldn't top the charts, yeah, completely throw that out the window. I am really excited. I was excited when they announced the collab way back a year ago. And I just wanted to give my thoughts while pointing out what they did was amazing and then what was just a little bit lacking. So thank you so much, and feel free to let me know your thoughts. Peace!